everyone, welcome back to my channel again. Thanks for tuning in, and if you're new, my name is Suki. I normally make a lot of vlogs. Today I'm doing something different because I want to sit down and talk to you guys about something that's really important, and I think it'll be really useful for people, especially moving to London and finding a place to stay for long term. I wanted to share my experience of my flat hunting shenanigans with you. London is very different from other places in the UK. It has its own flat hunting strategy. Basically, I am a soon-to-be master's student starting this September studying at the LSE, and therefore I had to go through a lot of flat hunt, house hunting in order to find a place for me to stay this year. It was a very complex and long experience, which I really hope that this video can make your experience easier, since when I was flat hunting, I wish I would have watched a video like this. For a background, I right now live in a flat located around King's Cross, which is a Zone 1 area, and it also is very convenient for me to go to lectures since I study in LSE, since I will be studying in LSE and the campus is located in Holborn. Okay, for me, my first advice is don't start too early, because me thinking that London will be like anywhere else in the UK, you should start as early as possible, because for anything, the earlier you start, the better, right? You think that. But this only applies if you're trying to find plane tickets or trying to find accommodation outside of London. London has its own property market. It comes and goes so quickly. Agents and landlords prefer you to contact them a month before you want to move in, instead of half a year before you want to move in. For me in Sheffield, because I studied my undergrad in Sheffield, I secured my second year accommodation the Christmas of my first year. That is more than 6 months early, but for this London flat that I found, I secured it 2 weeks before I move in, which is what they want you to do in London. Why is that, you might think? Since London housing is so competitive, there are people that have interest every single day, then they prefer you to move in as soon as possible. They don't want to hold the property for half a year waiting for you to move in. For my experience, I try to contact a lot of sellers 6 months before I wanted to move in. They just say come back when it's closer to your move-in date, because right now we have a lot of potential interest that want to move in way earlier than you do. They rather start receiving rent next month than waiting for you to start moving in and then they receive rent, if that makes sense. Of course, you can research whenever you want. You can research a year ahead, but if you actually want to directly contact the agent, sign a contract, I feel like it is better if you do it later, because they would be more interested in trying to help you, assist you, since they know that they don't have to wait for you for so long until your first transaction go through to them. I went to so many flat viewings, I went to house viewings, but I chose to live in a flat since I don't want to have to take care of a garden, my front and backyard, because normally flats you have a reception, you have security system. It's just better for temporary stay, in my opinion. You have less to clean up. You don't need to clean up your garden and stuff like that, and I think there are also less insects that get into your house since you're more level up highly. That is why I chose a flat. When you want to look for housing, the first thing to start is obviously research and see what area you want to live in. London is separated by zones, and the prices of housing also can be very heavily impacted by what zone you live in. Because of Corona, everything has become a bit funny and just weird, the housing market. It used to be that if you live in Zone 1, obviously the houses are most expensive because you're closer to the city center. Very logical, right? But because of COVID, so many people work from home now. Properties in Zone 1 are lacking tenants, since a lot of people don't want to live so close to the city center because they don't need to commute to work anymore. So they rather live in Zone 5, 6, where there's more nature and they can work from home. Therefore, the housing prices dropped a lot for Zone 1 recently this summer, I think. But I think slowly it will get back to normal. I feel like you should still kind of assume that Zone 1 prices will be more expensive than a Zone 6 flat. If you want to budget, maybe use that as a reference. Hello. I also want to add on to what I said just now. I am editing right now. I think this will happen quite a lot because I filmed this unscripted, and I feel like there are a lot of things that I left unsaid and I just remember when I'm editing. I want to mention that the London zone system is also in circle, which is really weird, which means that it's the circumference that dictates what zone this area is in. It might not be as close to the city center as you think, so you could be in zone 4 and you are closer to the city center than if you live in zone 2, because it's a circle. That's also a thing to consider. Zone 3 might not even be that far away from your campus if you find a good route to a bus route or something, and it could be even better than living in zone 1. So you really have to consider that and just dig deep and like research quite meticulously when it comes to commuting and transport and how far away is everything, since the zone system is not the be all and end all. Also see the train line, because my campus is in Holborn. It's the same northern line as King's Cross, so I can just do the direct train line. I think it's Piccadilly to Holborn without switching trains, which is very convenient. I think look at the tube line and see if the place you stay has like a direct line tube to where you normally commute to for either work or for your uni, etc. Maybe write a list on what's important to you. For me, having a gym is so important, and I have a gym that's around 10-minute walking distance away, which I think is completely fine. Write down what you prioritize as amenities, facilities, and see if you can reach it within your doorstep within a 10-minute or 15-minute walk. Depends on what you personally think is a good distance. Don't be afraid to negotiate prices when it comes to renting in London. Just always try to ask for a lower price, because if you don't try, the answer will always be no. Maybe negotiate with the landlord with something that you could give them that you could maybe pay less. So for me, I agreed to pay 6 months rent in advance, which I don't know if it's legal, but that helped me to deduct my monthly rent. You can also pick out some flaws when you were flat viewing, saying that, oh, this bed is a bit crooked, I feel like I can deduct my rent a bit because of this. There are lots of ways to try to work your way through it. Just be confident and try to ask and give them a reason why you think you deserve this rent instead of their asking price. Most of the time it might work. It really depends on how competitive your flat is, because all they want at the end of the day is someone to rent their flat. It's better for them to rent out at a cheaper price than no one renting it, because money or no money, right? Another thing I want to mention is the London, as I mentioned before, the London housing market is super rapid. There were a few times where I secured a deal, I paid the reservation fee, and the flat is still gone, because they are legally allowed to give away the flat before you sign the contract physically on pen and paper. Even if you pay a reservation fee, they can still give the property away. It happened to me twice, which is always very disappointing, because that means I have to start hunting again, find new places again. So that's what I'm saying. Try to secure it closer to the date you move in than to secure it way ahead, because they can always find another person that wants a flat, that wants to move in earlier than you are, and they would give the flat away. Another thing I also want to add is I recommend you setting up the Wi-Fi in advance. One thing that I didn't do is I didn't set up Wi-Fi before I move in, and I thought I should get that done after I move in, but it turns out I had to wait for a month until the broadband company can connect the broadband into my home, which is very irritating because I had to live on data and it was a very stressful few weeks. For Wi-Fi, you can literally set it up remotely in advance, and I think you have to do it anyway. Might as well just get it all done so when you move in you have good smooth Wi-Fi running. Also, just check up on utility bill, see if your flat covers it. If not, you gotta sort it out by yourself. If you can find a place that covers the utility bill for you at a reasonable price, then might as well, because you don't need to do all that. But I personally didn't have it covered, and it wasn't that much of a chore. You just gotta phone up your water company, your electricity company, your gas, your heat. It's just a one-off thing, and you get it sorted for the time you're living in there. So yeah, and also being a student living in London, you get to waive the council tax, which you gotta do it online and let your local council know that you're a student, and you give them proof, and you can avoid paying the very expensive council tax, which is also one thing you gotta do along with the utility. If you're interested, I have a flat tour video of my flat. My flat is £2,383.33 a month. That is a 2-bedroom flat, so I split it with my flatmate. I used Rightmove and Zoopla a lot for just the initial contacting agent and all that, and seeing the prices, comparing prices, and see what's the normal price, because obviously prices change all the time. It's a good way to just look on Rightmove and Zoopla and see what other prices normally people rent it at, so make sure you don't get scammed. I think that is about it. I hope you find this video helpful if you are looking for a place to stay in London. I wish you the best of luck. It is a beautiful city. There's always things to do around in London, which is one thing I like about London. Yeah, good luck on everything, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.